Okay, good morning. It's June 27th. I'm reading it when you are. A good scare is worth more to a man than good advice. Ed Howe, 1858 to 1929. When we look back on our days of wine and roses, many of us recall that someone cared enough to confront or warn us early in our addiction. But many of us either rejected the advice emphatically or told the person that we agreed and we were committed to change someday, but not today. So what precipitated making the move to seriously consider recovery? Was it a good scare? In recovery, a more contented life would include more proactive and less reactive motivation. We don't want to stay in the habit of waiting on everything until it's an emergency. Do we file our taxes on time or wait for a foreboding letter? If we own a car, do we get the brakes done at the first sound of wear or not until the car skids to a halt, barely averting an accident? There's a cost to procrastination. With taxes and bills, there can be penalties. With car or home repair, the cost of neglect may be more substantial than a financial slap on the wrist. Action. What is the emotional toll of ruminating about these things without taking action? And what self-talk do we inflict upon ourselves? Do we should all over ourselves? Are we rebelling against routine or authority like a child does? Are we overextended, neglecting, or avoiding our own or someone else's good advice? Persistent unmanageability that follows us through recovery could be a symptom of emotional problems. In the same way, liver enlargement could be a sign that someone is drinking too much. A chaotic life is a tiring life. It's more work than living with order. Is this unmanageability a smokescreen masking repressed hurt, regret, or grief? Things we'd rather not think about at all. We write these things off as lazy when, in truth, they are way more work. So it's worth asking the question of what's going on if unmanageability persists in recovery. How manageable is my life today? What are the underlying issues? What's one thing I can commit to doing that will help make my life more manageable? Am I waiting for a good scare? Do I feel integral when I do what needs to be done every day? Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little tired, so I kind of like my words, but okay. For me, in the morning, the first thing I try to do when I roll out of bed, of course, you check your face, you go to the bathroom, and I make my bed. And when I make my bed, I can see things better, if that makes any sense. If I make my bed, that's one check that is off the checklist that makes my life more manageable. A bed cluttered with clothes or paperwork or things that, beds can get covered with stuff, toys, because we have kids. When they were littler, it would just pile up. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting rid of everything that's on the bed and making the bed will make such a difference in your life. There's, I think he's a well-known, I don't remember what his name is, but he's a well-known Army veteran, possibly, so he's a veteran, I know. And he explained the importance of making sure he makes his bed. I'm sure somebody out there knows who I'm talking about. I don't remember his name. I think that it's really hard for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and Jehovah's Witnesses to see the reality of life, because we live in a fantasy of whatever our imagination is. about the new world. So when we have our current problems, we think we pray to Jehovah, of course, right? We pray to Jehovah, and then we handed it off and don't worry about it. But the problem is it's still persisted. And so it's, for instance, taxes. I was born in the 70s, and there was stay alive till 75. And there were a lot of brothers and sisters at that point that had racked up a lot of credit cards and financial debt because they thought the new world was coming. And so they didn't have to worry about it because God was going to wipe it all clean, right? Wipe the credit cards clean. No, that's not what happened. In fact, it's sad because there was a sister that I knew close to me, and she had lots of kids. And what the advice to her was, after her husband had died, who was not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, to rack up loans on her house. And the advice from other sisters her age that had told her to go ahead and get those credit cards and max them out to take care of her kids. And before you know it, she had bankruptcy on the house, maxed out her credit cards, and she had no place to go with her. She had at the time, I think, at least 3 kids living with her, and she had about 5 or 6, if I remember correctly. So, but the others had left and were adulting the best way they could. They were all under like 18. The kids were under 18. She had a lot. Her husband had just died overnight. It was something that wasn't expected at all. So these are things that you really have to consider when you get advice from Jehovah's Witnesses to max out your credit cards because the new world is coming. Don't do that. That is not wise. And not only that, in our culture, it wasn't that you bought a home, right? You would never buy a home because it's Satan's world. But I knew a lot of brothers and sisters that bought their homes. And of course, it was about 20 years ago that they started buying their homes. Can you see that? It's so cute. It's a hummy. They like to come and eat. Oh, you get to see that? That's so cool. Yeah, so they bought their homes, and I'm surprised I'm not going to get smacked in the head by this guy because they're pretty territorial. They don't like it when you're in the way. He's loud too. I could hear him. Yeah, so they will buy their home. They had bought in their homes, but not particularly able to afford everything because our lifestyle is very impractical. It doesn't allow for moving ahead in the world. And if you do move ahead, you're looked down upon, right? So there's a lot of conflict there in making sure that your taxes and your bills are paid. And car repairs done. A lot of pioneers don't have enough money to fix their cars. So they're stuck trying to figure out, well, how am I going to change the brakes? And they take people in those cars. Right? They take a lot of, you can get cram at least 3 or 4 people in a small little car driving around, but you can't afford to get the brakes done or put new tires on it to keep those people safe. And it's important to be able to keep people safe in your cars. And it's usually the older friends, right, that have the nice cars, and they have their homes. Some of them have their homes. Firemen, I noticed, that have been were brothers and then managed to keep their families in a well-to-do state. And around here, in the last, let's say, 25 years, there were certain brothers that held positions as elders that could maintain their home, being able to buy a home in Orange County and then keep their families prospering. But very rarely, if you're a single mom, that is not possible. Or if you have no stability when it comes to family that has the understanding of how to be able to, what is the word? invest, right? Families that invest their money and are wise with their money. So it's very challenging once we leave Jehovah's Witnesses, because we have to do all our own education. We have to educate ourselves about finances. There's a really cool gentleman that I've met through YouTube, and he calls it, well, I don't know if I can say it. There's a gentleman that encourages getting invested in Vandex index funds, right? Index funds. I'm in the stock market, but not in index funds. I still have yet to do that. And he calls it fuck you money. Because you do need fuck you money, right? It's unfortunate, but we all need that. It's important so that we can have a little nest egg when things don't go right and you're not getting along with, let's say, your employer, or you need to move out of your home because your families are not understanding when it comes to, let's say, your gender, what you've decided, what you want in your life to make you happy. There's a lot of things that you have to do in order for you to be able to stand on your own. So getting that nest egg, I call it a nest egg, he calls it fuck you money, but you know what I mean. So yeah, well, that's what he called it. So I'm just relaying the information. I think it's very important to have money for yourself, and if you're under 18, start saving your money, because it's very important. Put it in things. It only takes $1 to invest in Fidelity investments. $1, and then you just pile that in Fidelity. So you only need $1 and you can be under 18. Isn't that amazing? I thought that was so amazing. So I will try and find that information for you, but I probably won't. So I'll do the best I can and put it down in the description. But the fuck you money guy, that one was good. And he had been in investing for years and years and years. And he found that index funds were the safest because they compile all the biggest companies together. And then they put the money in so that it's invested for you in the wisest way, versus you doing it all by yourself on the stock market. I have yet to do that for my girls as well, so don't feel bad. And I've known this for a while, so procrastination, right? It's very easy to procrastinate. I'm checking off checklists and it's hard to get it all done, so don't feel bad about it. Just do it. Just make sure you put it on a piece of paper, go through the paper and do the best you can, right? So it's okay. What is the emotional toll of ruminating about things? What do we have to go through in our minds when we don't do the things that we need to get done? It's really important to follow through. So we should ourselves, right? Rebelling against a routine. I think when we come out, we want to rebel against everything because we've been put in this little box for so long. We are not in the frame of mind to want to be told what to do anymore, which can actually be a very big disadvantage. So procrastination and not being able to follow through because you want to rebel isn't wise. It's just not wise. And especially if you hit my age, right? I'm over 50, so I'm in that category of half a century old. I don't have much life to live, right? We have a certain amount of time and that's about it. So I wasn't wise with my money. I didn't invest properly, invested, but not properly. So it's important now to be as focused as possible, which, let's face it, things start falling apart. I feel like the old car, you turn around and the car is like, there's parts of the engine falling out of there. And I'm looking back, looking at the car, and I'm the car. Yeah, so, I get it. It's hard. But like it says, a chaotic life is a tiring life. So making sure that you don't get more tired. And if you have all of it piling on, right, there's only so much you can do. So don't think of it as like this big thing. You just push all that bigness aside and like the three things, that's it. What's going to keep you safe, right? What's going to keep you safe? What's going to keep you working? And how do you manage your mental state during that period of time so that you're not going crazy? And that's easy for people to say, right? But that's when groups come in, free groups. If you could get yourself into a group and just express yourself and be able to tell people what you're going through. There's no judgment in those rooms. There's not supposed to be judgment in those rooms. For Al-Anon, if you're suffering alone and you feel scared, that's the place to dump yourself and then allow for you to have a clear brain after. And then you just go one at a time, right? Those 3 things, it's just so much easier than figuring out the whole problem, because it can be very overwhelming. And it's taking those deep breaths and being able to have quiet moments and do your exercise. And exercise for me isn't about maintaining my body. It's about maintaining my brains and not going off on my family and not getting so tired where I'm physically not able to do anything. So I really have to watch myself. I do take those moments and listen to the birds and sit outside or go sit on a park and take my shoes off and put my feet on the wet grass. All of those things help you maintain. They just help you maintain. And if you can't afford a psychologist or a therapist, there are scaled comments I've been told to me as well. Just go to a therapist and they can scale your amounts, so that just generally means they'll ask you how much you make and how much you can afford, and then put you in like a category, and then maybe you only have to pay, instead of like $150, you'll be able to pay $30 to $60. I know it's still pricey, but you know, there's that. And then there's Al-Anon, which is absolutely, I mean, it's not absolutely free. You can, they will charge what, $3. I think I pay $3 every time I go. That's it, $3. So it's more economical if you can't afford a therapist. It's one of the girlies said, you know, it's free therapy. Where can you get pretty much free therapy? It's very hard to do that. And if you needed to talk to someone after they have a little cafe, and if you just need to dump, the girls will sit or the gentleman or whoever it is will sit there with you. Someone will talk to you so you don't feel alone. And that is a big thing for ExJWs, because we feel alone. And to be quite honest, that may stay with you for some time. I know it does with me, because I left a whole history of people behind. People I cared about, people that I loved, people that I thought loved me. So it is quite a challenge, and don't feel bad if you can't get it all taken care of in one day, in 1 month, in 1 year. It's been almost 4.5 years, and I'm barely feeling like, look at me. I'm finally able to talk. You know, it was a challenge. I got kind of leery of YouTube. I didn't really know what it was I was doing. I had to do a whole course on understanding what we're seeing today. The Center for Humane Technology. I encourage that if you want to get involved too, and you just want to know, well, what am I? For me, I wanted to make sure that what I do is helpful. And also, like I said, it has its challenges. I don't do everything the way that YouTube wants you to do it to get your subscribers and all, because I think that people find you if they need you. I feel that. So when people comment, it helps. Knowing where we are is helpful too, because I don't know who's really, you can see some statistics, but because I'm so little, the statistics aren't very good for me anyway, because I don't have a big following, and I'm okay with that. I enjoy small family. I enjoy small groups. I enjoy being able to sit with a cup of coffee and in the firelight, right, and with a fire, and quietly just looking at the stars. I'm a real quiet person. I like that. And so, yeah, I don't mind that, but I don't mind being small. And I just wanted to make sure that what I'm doing is something that I really wanted to do, and which I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know what the strings what attachments would come, and how is it really affecting my audience. It had to be beneficial. I had to know what I was doing, and I'm grateful that I took those courses, because it helped me understand as a society too, and it starts with bottom up. So I don't think that it's just all these educated people that will help. I think it's all of us, and being able to understand that helped me. The bottom up approach, with a lot of the things that we have to go through as human beings here right now, especially anywhere in the world. It's a bottom up approach. That's how we get our education. I'm grateful that I have a different path. I didn't do everything the way everybody did, and that's okay. And you probably didn't either. And we all take a different path, but we educate ourselves along the way. But it doesn't mean that you're less than. And don't put yourself in those categories that they put us in. Don't. Apostate, uneducated, didn't go to college. Give me a break. You learn. And there are educated people up at the top that just don't blow their horn at the fact that they didn't do it the way everybody else did. So there's a really cool, I think she's transgender. I think they are transgender. She transgender is, I always want to say that. I don't know. They are so amazing. This person is amazingly smart and works for China, and they have come down here and then go back up, and they did it totally different. They dropped out of college. And they are amazing. So yeah, so I still have such a hard time with all that. It's hard for me. I'm old, and sometimes it's just, my brains just are so, they stop at certain points. It's frustrating. I hope I can find that information. I think it would be helpful. I was amazed at how they did it, how they did it so differently. And education, right? Just never stop learning. Never, ever, ever stop learning. It's amazing. It's so much fun. And I learn differently. You learn differently. All right. Well, like I say, sometimes I go over it, other times I don't, and I didn't today. And I did it early enough so I'm not too tired. Because usually I do it. Sometimes I'll do it way late in the day. It's too loud. I'm going to try and get up early, but usually I take that time for myself and walk. You got to see the hummy. That is so cool. I like this. This plant is it's a nasturtium. You can eat these. I don't know if I told you that already, but you can eat this too, the petals, and then you can eat these plants. Yeah, and pop them in your salad or pop them in some saute stuff. Have an abundance of peace today. Love and abundance. Surround yourself with good music. Dance if you can. That's always good for your brain. If you can play some music, even better. Follow your bliss and be good humans.